Good morning everyone, welcome to Tuesday's video where we are looking ahead to Dinamo Zagreb versus Celtic. Is this the day that this is going to happen? Well, I think potentially. I think it's fair to say this is the best opportunity we've had going into a Champions League away game, probably since our last win, Anderlecht back in 2017. Just factoring in the tough place that Dinamo Zagreb appear to be in at the moment. They have a number of injuries, but even away from that, their form recently has been very poor. Just to reiterate once again, no wins in their last 5 games, only scored 3 goals across those 5 games. So I think it's going to be a really tough game tonight, but I think there's also an opportunity for this Celtic team to go and win the game and to assure us of a top 24 spot with a couple of games to spare. I hope you enjoyed our interview yesterday with the journalist and legend Isaac Ante Susic. He was able to offer plenty of insight into Dinamo Zagreb, and the vast majority of the comments that we got from you legends afterwards were basically all hinting at the same thing. Underestimate Zagreb at your peril, and don't you know this is Celtic away in Europe. And I think that's a fair point. Like, we don't have a good record away from home in the Champions League or in Europe generally, and I guess that's always going to bring about a fair bit of nervousness for these kind of matches. We've only ever actually won 2 games away from home in the Champions League, so we're not really at the point where we can just expect to win tonight's game without any hiccups. It's clearly going to be a tough game. Listen, I'm going to talk a fair bit about Dinamo Zagreb in today's video, also Celtic, and basically just give you everything you need to know ahead of tonight's game. I felt that we took a big step in our last away game in this competition. It seems a while ago now, but that game away to Atalanta in Bergamo, I thought I saw something from a Celtic team at Champions League level that I'd never seen before, certainly away from home. A really resolute defensive performance, and I think as much as Atalanta are clearly a better team than Dinamo Zagreb, I think it's a similar kind of defensive performance we need to see tonight, and to be honest, need to see in every single Champions League match, especially away from home. But hopefully we can carry more of an attacking threat like we did in the Leipzig game. So I'm feeling good about tonight, but we'll see how that goes as we move on with this. Dinamo boss Nenad Bjelica was speaking yesterday ahead of the game, and a bit like Brendan Rodgers, he's in his second spell with Dinamo. He rejoined them just a couple of months ago actually. They made a bit of a faltering start to the season, lost 9-2 away to Bayern Munich, and then he came in and I was going to say he steadied the ship a bit. I think he initially did, but they're struggling a bit now. He was the manager of Union Berlin this time last year, so decent enough pedigree. He was asked about the state of play with his current team at yesterday's press conference and said it's the same as before Slaven, plus Arian Ademi, who's their captain, will not be available. Raul Torrenti will be in the squad if needed. Whoever runs out will give their all. That's the only requirement. So just to clarify, and I don't really want to labour the point that Dinamo are missing a lot of players because they still have quality players coming in. It's still going to be a tough game. But just to clarify, they will be without their captain tonight. That's confirmed, Ademi. They are without Bruno Petkovic, who is a 42-time Croatia cap. He won't play tonight. They're without a Japanese player. They have Takuya Ogewara, believe is a fullback. So without him, Juan Cordoba, I think Isaac was saying yesterday, a summer signing. They're without him. They're without Sammy May. He's the one they signed from Ferencváros. I think he's the brother of Brian May, cracking name, who we were linked with a few years ago. He's not going to play. And Petar Susic, who is a player who currently starts in the Croatia midfield alongside Luka Modric, he's not going to play tonight either. I also think their first choice goalie, Ivan Nevestic, will miss the game. He did return to their squad at the weekend, but only on the bench. Now, the papers in Croatia seem to think they'll go with a back four this evening. However, they have played with a back five at points so far this season, so we'll need to wait and see. This is the team that they're going with, just to give you a rough idea. I know you probably won't know many of the names there. A few players to pick out though and make a wee note of. Forward Sandro Kulinovic has 14 goals for the season, including a brace against Slovan Bratislava, and he also scored in their win over RB Salzburg. So he's a guy who can find the back of the net. Brendan Rodgers himself named Martin Baturina at yesterday's press conference. He's a 21-year-old big talent. He was in the Croatia squad at the Summer's Euros. He also started for his country at Hampden a month ago. So a big talent. The fact that Brendan Rodgers brings him up, I think, is interesting. And finally, Marco Piazza scored a hat-trick against us for Dinamo in a 4-3 Europa League win in 2014. That game is actually a decade ago tomorrow. So not exactly 10 years to the day today, but pretty cool how things work themselves out. Is it cool? I don't know. Anyway, we're back in Zagreb 10 years later. And I guess just because we like a wee bit of fun in the channel, because these match videos and match days can be quite intense, let's see if you can work out the team that started that game back in 2014. Ronnie Dyler was, of course, our manager. I've given you the nationalities there as well. And if you're listening to this as a podcast, apologies. Going back to their manager, Belica, he was also asked what he makes of Celtic, what he knows about Celtic. He said, they're a great team, great individuals, but as a team, they are also well managed. They play in a clear 4-3-3 system with very powerful wings, midfielders who run a lot and attack from deep. They are aggressive and fast. They have these 3 Japanese players who are quality. They have a complete team, and it is much easier for them to rotate because they have a huge advantage in the league. I don't think he can surprise us. That's Brendan Rodgers. They always play in a similar way. It's just that the players in that system change. We watched 7-8 of their games. So he certainly knows his stuff about Celtic. I watched a wee bit of Dinamo as well earlier today, specifically their 2 home matches they've had in the Champions League so far. And by the way, just side point, I don't think they've got a great home record. I think it's something like 2 wins out of their last 13 matches at Champions League level, so they're not exactly a strong team at home. They haven't won either of their 2 wins so far this season. Neither of them have come at home. They've both been on the road. The 2 games, they had a 2-2 draw against AS Monaco and a 3-0 defeat in the last match day at home to Borussia Dortmund. Now, one thing that did catch my attention when watching the highlights of these Zagreb games, and it was mentioned by Isaac yesterday, but they do have an entire stand closed at the moment after an earthquake that happened in 2020. And it's actually the biggest stand in the stadium, which reduces the capacity from around about 38,000 there that you would see if the whole stadium was open, down to 24,000. Now, it's also the stand that is directly opposite from the TV camera, which means that it may feel a little bit like we're back playing in an empty stadium in COVID times when the game kicks off this evening. So you're going to see that when the game kicks off, but rest assured the rest of the stadium will be full. They do have their ultras, the Bad Blue Boys, who sit off to the left and make a hell of a noise. Obviously, Celtic will have a big support in there as well. In terms of actual stuff on the pitch, very quick at counter-attacking, kind of like typical Eastern European type team, like very tidy in the midfield, but if you leave a gap, they'll pounce on it very quickly, and just a few passes and they'll be in. There was a goal they scored in their game against Monaco that actually came from a Monaco corner, and Monaco didn't even make a hash of the corner. They just crossed it in and it popped out, and I think 2 passes in Zagreb were in and they scored. So that's something we're going to have to watch, especially I think with like a home support behind them. It's always, I always think going to Eastern Europe is quite a daunting thing. because the fans are very loud, and that style of play, sometimes the pitch is wet so they can move the ball about quite quickly. I think the usual things go tonight, make a fast start, Celtic, or certainly don't allow them to make a fast start. No early goals. Let's show that Bergamo wasn't just a one-off. This is what we're like in Europe now. We're resolute. Because I do think if we get through the initial surge, which I think you will see from Zagreb in front of their own fans, I think we can then work our way into the game, and maybe stuff like our subs and the fact we have a really strong squad and they really don't at the moment can come into play. And also the fact that their fans are not happy with what they're seeing at the moment. So maybe if we just quieten them down a little bit, they'll then get on their team's back, which would obviously be good for us. So I think the start is very important tonight. This is a good team we're playing though. And yeah, as I keep repeating, they're not in a great place at the moment. They're missing a few players, but there was a bit in the Croatian media that I was reading earlier on, and it was just saying that there's maybe been wee signs of things getting a bit better for them recently. I think they had some kind of clear the air talks with their ultras after the weekend game. The manager was quite positive about the performance at the weekend. They drew with Slaven Belupo, apparently missed loads of chances in that game. And also the top team in Croatia, Hajduk Split, I believe, had a chance to go 9 points clear of Dinamo Zagreb and lost. So that's given them all just a bit of hope about winning the league and just feeling good about themselves. And obviously they know tonight if they win that they're pretty much guaranteed to get into the top 24. So dangerous team tonight. Okay, Celtic-wise, Brendan Rodgers' press conference yesterday, 90% of that press conference taken up by Brendan Rodgers. Poor Austin Trusty, I think, got maybe 2 words at the end of it. I think the press were more interested in Brendan Rodgers. You'll no doubt have seen this or heard the quotes. There was nothing major anyway, but it's fair to say that the manager is feeling good about this one. He thinks it's the team's time to take that next step and win a game away from home in the Champions League. And I thought it was interesting Brendan Rodgers didn't shy away from saying that. He didn't kind of play down the question at all. He kind of took it as a wee bit of a challenge to the players and a bit more confidence, just saying, I believe in you. I think you're ready to take this next step. Go and take this next step. So I thought that was great. In contrast to our opponents, we have a full squad to choose from, and the manager has decisions to make. This is the team that I am going for. Kasper Schmeichel between the sticks, a back four of Alistair Johnson, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Austin Trusty and Greg Taylor will return to that point. Midfield, I'm going Callum McGregor, Paulo Bernardo, Reo Hatate, and the front three, it will come as no surprise to you, Nicholas Kuhn, Kyogo Furuhashi and Daisen Maeda. I'm half wondering if Alex Vai starts tonight, given that he didn't start at the weekend. And also it's quite a big pitch, I think. Maximir, the stadium, and I just wonder if ball carrying might be more important tonight than it maybe would be in another match. So that's in my mind. And I'm also thinking, part of me just wonders if Arne Engels starts, just because he's got that real box-to-box energy that I think could be really important tonight. I think it's going to be a really open game. I think both teams are going to be counter-attacking, and it might feel a bit like an NBA game for a fair bit. But we'll wait and see if that plays out. But yeah, that's a good team. I really want to see that pace in behind from the front three. We've not really seen it in either of the away matches so far. And we saw it plenty in pre-season, and we all got pretty excited about it, even though it was pre-season against Chelsea and Manchester City. Be great to unlock those three in behind a fair bit tonight. Few other wee things. Well, I suppose one pretty big thing to kick off. The game is a 5:45 PM kick-off this evening. We are one of the two early matches. Girona-Liverpool is the other early match. So don't put your telly on at 8 PM or 7:45 and expect to see the match. It'll be over by then. Switch on. Secondly, match officials. It's an all-German team for this evening. The referee, Felix Zweier. I'm not even going to bother reading out the other names because chances are you won't know them, but Zweier is the top German referee at the moment. He was their representative at the Euros in the summer. He was in the news last year as news finally emerged that he had taken a bribe when he was 19 years old. Not sure why it took quite so long for that to come out, but he also did have a Celtic game last season. He was in charge of our 2-2 draw at home to Atletico Madrid. He sent off an Atletico player that night as well. So he's the referee. And yeah, finally, let's just remind ourselves of what the league table looks like ahead of tonight. We are 20th at the moment. Zagreb are just behind us on 23rd. So yeah, we reached this later point of the campaign, and I know we're all fixated on the number, but keeping a team like Zagreb behind us and getting a result against them and certainly denying them 3 points, I think starts to become important as well, because as I say, we are fixated on get to 10 points and you'll be good, but that's not an absolute guarantee. 9 points could be enough. We might need 11. So I think the fact we're playing a team in and around us tonight is notable as well. And yeah, that's kind of everything you need to know ahead of tonight. As I say, I think early stages of the game we might have to deal with a bit. I expect them to come out, fully charged and ready to go. It's a big pitch. They're going to be a capable team. They've won a couple of games at this level, same as us this season. But I just think if we get through that initial period and no defensive howlers like we've seen so often in years gone by, the kind of just the idea that Celtic start a game and there's just a terrible mistake in the first few minutes. If we can just get through that and really settle ourselves into the game and start playing our stuff, I think there's something special could happen this evening. I think it is a winnable game for Celtic, but we have to play well. We have to press much better than we did against Hibs on Saturday, because if we give those kind of chances that we did against Hibs to a team like Zagreb tonight, they will take them. So a real test for the team tonight. I think it's been a really, I guess this new Champions League campaign was always going to do this, but real variety of matches so far. We've had, really glamorous games, especially Dortmund away. That was a real kind of bucket list game for a lot of people. We've had games where we're really expected to win at home. Slovan Bratislava and did that. We've had real defensive performances away to Atalanta. The really good performance against Leipzig. The not so good performance against Bruges, but digging in and getting a result. And I guess tonight would potentially be an unglamorous, if that's even a word, unglamorous match. When you look at the team we're playing, they come from not a major footballing nation club-wise. Certainly as a national team, they're very good. But club-wise, not a major footballing nation. I don't think it's going to be particularly nice weather this evening. The stadium's a bit of a dump. And apologies to any Zagreb fans watching, but look at it. You can't really deny that. I think I read somewhere earlier it was voted like the third ugliest stadium in Europe. I'd like to see the top two. Probably Hampden and Ibrox, but it's not a great stadium. It's as I say, empty stand. The stadium might not be full, even the other three stands. So I think tonight is going to be an interesting one for the team. Really dig in against a good side who are going to be motivated in Eastern Europe, away kind of from the lights a wee bit, and at the very least don't lose the match. A draw is okay, moves us on to young boys, knowing we probably need another point. Go and win tonight though. And the pressure in the Champions League just completely goes for the young boys game. I genuinely believe that. It just becomes bonus at that stage. How far can we move up the league table? I'm not giving you a prediction. Oh yes, I am. Celtic are going to win, everyone. I feel it. Although I did say that ahead of Dortmund, I think. Right, hopefully I've wasted 20 minutes of your time ahead of kick-off. As I say, early kick-off, remember that. I hope you enjoy the game, wherever you're watching it, and I'll be back tomorrow morning to look back on it.